When he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And behold, a leper came to him and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. So leprosy in this case, it can mean a wide range of things, but it always comes back to some sort of skin condition that made that person unclean. Right, they were outcasts, that people couldn't be around them, touch them, or they would be unclean themselves. And then that person would have to go through the cleansing process based off of the law in the Old Testament and everything along with that. Can you imagine your friends, your family, everybody you know looking at you and then turning and walking away? You're an outcast. And how many tears do you think that man shed over the course of his life? The pain of his skin and the bleeding or whatever it was that he had specifically. All the tears that he shed from the exhaustion and anger and rage and everything that comes along with it. Have you found yourself in that situation? Whether it's health, whether it's with relationships, where you feel so lost that there is no hope. That's what this man was feeling. And we see it over and over again with the people that Christ healed. But the beautiful thing is this. In Revelation 21:4, it says, He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. And I read that, and I think back to the times when I struggled. I deal with chronic fatigue and different things, and it's been overwhelming at times. With the times that I've woken up in the night at 2 a.m. and just crying out silently to God with tears streaming down my face, asking him, where is he, and can he just end it? Going to bed every night and being like, Lord, I don't want to wake up. I don't want to die, but I also don't want to wake up. I want there to be something different, a change, something to be different in my life. And he eventually helped me through that, and I still deal with it, but he wiped away my tears. And that's the promise here that God promises us, is that he will wipe away those tears. For those listening and have ever been in those situations where you are exhausted, where your emotions are everywhere, it's like being in the waves tossed around. But what it promises is that he will wipe away every tear we ever shed. And the truth is this, when Jesus reached out and he touched that leper, in society in that day, that made him unclean, right? Under the laws and the time. And in the Old Testament, it made Jesus unclean to touch that man. And so what it is, and the truth in our lives, is that Jesus exchanges his cleanness for our uncleanness. He takes our pain and gives us peace. So when he touches that leper, there's this exchange that happens where he touches him and he takes away the leper's illness and he gives the leper his power and his peace and his purity and all these things, and the leper is made clean. He's healed. And so the leper is healed, and then he goes away and he can live his life and glorify God. And that's what Jesus does. What he does is he kneels when we're on our knees and we can't do anything and we're at the end of our rope. Jesus kneels down and he takes our face in his hands and he wipes away those tears. And he says, I'm taking these tears because I shed them for you. What do we read right before he gets crucified? In the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus is praying to God so hard because of what he knows is going to happen. He sweats blood. And there are undoubtedly tears when he's crucified and everything that happens in between. So what Jesus says to every single one of us is that he exchanges. He exchanges our tears because he shed them for us. And so he's giving us his peace and his joy and all these things. And that's a promise of God, that he is taking our broken identity and giving us his, because he has always stood in our place no matter where we're at. And he's walking with us, and he kneels down with us and says, you are not alone in any of these parts, in all the tears and all the sweat and all the rage and anxiety and fear. There will be an end to it. And it's a process while we're here on this earth, and eventually we have our perfect bodies and we walk with God. But even here, there's an element of the kingdom of God that we can live in, where he's like, have my joy, and you can be made complete and at peace. And that's what we'll talk about today. And it's such a beautiful thing to realize that God never leaves us.